Hi there, my name is Danielle Jershevsky. I'm the North American editor for Labels and Labeling magazine, and I'm here today with Calvin Frost. He is the chairman of Channeled Resources Group based in North America. He's also the chairman of the Tag and Label Manufacturers Institute Environmental Health and Safety Committee, and he is also the chair of the Environmental Committee for FINAT based in Europe. And we're going to talk a little bit about sustainability today. Calvin Frost has been leading sustainability initiatives in the industry for some time now, and so I was hoping, Cal, that you could talk to us a little bit about the history of the label industry with regard to the environment.
Well, I'm just delighted, Danielle, that you've given me this opportunity. I've been doing this for an awfully long time, and it's been an uphill battle until the last 5 or 6 years, where I finally think the industry is recognizing that unless we solve certain issues, we're at risk. And it seems to me that we now have the leaders in the industry realizing that the seriousness of some of these issues. So I'm just delighted to answer any questions you might have in terms of what's happened and where you think we're going. Or I'm happy to do anything you'd like me to do.
So what do you see as the big issues? We've heard logistics as some of them. We've heard about recycling compatibility with regard to labels and primary packaging. Can you talk a little bit about those and maybe other issues that you see out there?
The issue is, part of the reason we have these issues is the complexity of the industry, the supply chain. And you think it's simple, you go from raw materials to the brand owner. But it's what's happening in between, which is the complex part, and why it's so difficult to change culture, because you have so many different industries involved in it. We have two major issues. They're all really tied to byproduct. And the industry continues to generate huge amounts of release liner, and it also generates huge amounts of waste. And we call that matrix. Or we call it, if we're an OEM, we call it pressure-sensitive waste. Fascinating thing to me about release liner is that we've never figured out how to close the loop. And one of the ways of closing the loop is for the OEM, the Averys, the Raflatacs, the Retramas, to say to their paper suppliers that they want a base stock with a percentage of spent liner in it. Now, Mitsubishi, as you probably know, has come up with a wonderful scheme. They call it reprocess. And they're taking spent polyester liner, and that's going back into their liner, and eventually it goes back to the OEM for laminating and so on. We're not doing this with the paper industry. Paper industry represents still 70% of roll label. So if we can make changes like that, where the OEM is requiring their suppliers to use a percentage of spent liner, then I think we're going to solve the issue of spent liners, paper liners.
And it is possible, right, to remove the silicone from a paper liner.
Absolutely.
And recover the pulp and reuse
absolutely.
it in a clean process.
Absolutely. So a paper manufacturer could take what we call desiliconized pulp, DSP, and actually put that back into their product. Most of them don't want to do it. The paper industry is very worried about silicone and the compatibility with printing inks, but we've proven that we can actually eliminate the silicone in the de-inking process or the desiliconizing process. So that's part of the issue. I think we're establishing some pilot projects in both Europe and in America. We'll know more about those shortly. The other issue is, of course, pressure-sensitive waste. When the converters generate it, we call it matrix. When the OEM generates it, we call it pressure-sensitive waste. That is currently being landfilled. Any industry that's providing print technology that generates waste, in my view, has an issue. If I'm a brand owner and I'm buying print technology, I want to buy from a source that is clean and sustainable. So these two issues, liners and matrix, we have to solve these.
And do you see any variance between your expertise, and you're working a lot with the Western markets? Do you see any difference in progress between North America versus Europe?
North America has some interesting projects that we've been involved in. One is a company that we have actually entered into an agreement with to provide waste byproducts as feedstocks, and they make what we call an engineered fuel. In Europe, we're struggling to do this. We have a pilot project. It's a wonderful application for matrix and pressure-sensitive waste. It's fascinating to me. America doesn't have an energy policy, and yet we seem to be able to be creative making engineered fuel. In Europe, you do have an energy policy, and 20% of energy must be renewable by 2020.
Right.
And so you're never going to get there with just wind and solar and geothermal. It's a wonderful opportunity for someone to take hold of this project and run with it. It's going to be difficult, it's complex, because you have to go through the European authorities, you have to define the product, you have to go through testing. You know, little companies like ours don't really have the cash flow to steamroll these things. So it's going to take either a partnership with a number of different companies to make these things happen. It's happening in America, it's not happening in Europe yet.
And what do you see with regard to work within the label industries separately? Is there similar work going on between FENOT and TLMI?
Yeah, I think both organizations are now really focused on sustainability issues. And I think it's taken a while, but in the last 5 years, 6 years, I've seen a lot of changes. We still have a lot of work to do. Again, the industry is so fractured. There's so many different parts of it. I was at a conference yesterday, and there was one diagram that one of the fellows presented, and it just explained the complexity of the industry. It isn't just the raw material guy, it isn't just the brand owner, it's what's going on in between. You have adhesive people, you have silicone people, paper people, film people, and then you have the laminator, and they're coming in all different directions. That's the complexity. And you have culture in each one of these different disciplines. So trying to get your hands around this, trying to get the message through the supply chain, that's the complex issue.
And would you say that that's what we really need to do as a global industry, is really come together and try to get our heads around this complexity and overcome it as one global
Yes,
force?
I do think we need leaders. We always need leaders to get things done. It's the leader, it's the person or the company that is going to go the extra mile that's really going to demonstrate to the rest of the industry that it's possible. I was having a chat this morning at Label Expo with an association in Great Britain. And they have 2 or 3 label printers, converters, that are very interested in the fuel pellet application. 2 or 3 out of 60 or 70. And it's trying to get from one point of the diagram to the other point.
Sure.
It's not easy.
No.
But it's going to happen. And I think the industry recognizes it has to happen, because if it doesn't, the industry's at risk.
Sure. And thank you. Good. Do you want to talk a little bit about the pellets?
I did bring some pellets.
Awesome.
Danielle, thank you. If you'll hold this. This is what we call a fuel pellet. And I don't know if I can get it out of this box. But these are pellets that have actually been put through an extruder. And what's happening is the product comes in, it's mixed, it's shredded, and then it goes through a hammer mill, and then extruded out of the pellet machine, and then goes into holding chambers.
And the pellets are a direct alternative to coal, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. They're equal in terms of thermal value, caloric value. They're equal in, they're better in terms of emissions, better in terms of ash. Again, we call this an engineered fuel.
Excellent. So there's some great advantages there.
Define what's in here in terms of filmic, in terms of paper, cellulose. We know exactly what's in here.
Excellent. And where are these pellets being made?
These are being made in the States, in the Midwest.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good.
Yeah, very exciting.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.